Alright, we're going to try this again with different software and see if we have any luck with getting this thing to work today. So, I don't know what my problem is. I have software telling me that I'm streaming and that it's working or it's not working, and I don't know what the issue is. I don't really know what's changed. I was trying to use a different piece of streaming software, so I'm trying to blame it on that, but I don't know that that's the case. But I still don't see any video. I don't see anything that is working, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, I see video. Oh my gosh, okay, we're gonna officially call this live, and I'm gonna close my browser here so that I'm not staring at that. That is exciting news. So welcome everybody, good morning, and I'm so sorry for how the last 2 days have gone. I have been working on setting up a new studio here in my house, and it required all new wiring and whatever, but at the same time I hit affiliate on Twitch, which is super exciting and gives me access to a bunch of other tools, and so to take advantage of those other tools, I thought, all right, cool, I'll jump over to a different version of the broadcast streaming software that I'm using. And since I've switched over to that, it broadcasts for like, I don't know, 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and then it quits. And I don't know why or how. So I just reverted this morning back to the old software that I was using, which doesn't give me all the gadgets and stuff that I was really hoping to use. But that's fine. I'm live and we're streaming and all is good. And so I'm going to have to shuffle a few things around here because the new software did some cool stuff for me that this software does not do. And so I've got to go see the chat so that I can bring that up on my screen so I can actually see what people are saying, because the old software would have done that for me, or I guess the new software would have done that for me. So I'm going to grab this and we'll pop out my chat. Take that over here so that I can chat with people. Oh my gosh, Carrie Payette, thank you for the bits. I don't know, I'm still new to this. I think that's what those are called. Wow, that's very nice of you. Thank you. I don't know what to do with that, but I will figure it out after I'm done with the stream. But for now, we're live, and the thing that I've been doing on here is building an Alexa skill that is a giant trivia game. And so I'm trying to pattern this like some of the bigger games that you see out there. There's the ability to come in and ask for just random questions. So if you want a random question or you want something that is from a specific category, you can easily do that. Give me a sports question, give me a history question. All of that functionality exists, and I've built some monetization and gamified a little of it. That's some stuff that I'm still working on. But the monetization part works. So if you ask for a sports question, but you haven't purchased the sports category, it'll let you know that, hey, by the way, this is available for sale, and if you'd like to buy it, you can. Otherwise, we'll just give you a random question, and you don't get to pick your category. But if you want to pick your category, it will cost you that $1. But there's 20 categories, and I don't expect at all that someone is going to pay $20 to unlock all the categories. So I've also created a subscription that's baked into this, and I think that is $4 a month, which is pretty small, but for that $4 you get all the categories. You can cancel that subscription anytime, and it also tells you what the right answer was when you get a question wrong, which I think is also a huge benefit to the subscription, because a lot of times you'll answer a question maybe even thinking you got it right, and the skill will tell you got it wrong, and so then you're wondering, well, what was the answer? I thought I had it right, or maybe I had no idea and I really want to know what that answer is. So that is kind of the monetization structure of this skill. And then obviously there's the transactional nature of ask a question, give an answer kind of stuff. And this has actually been a pretty hard problem to solve, to be able to build a skill that can allow a user to say literally anything and be able to understand that that is the user's answer and that they are right or wrong, or that they said anything at a time when I wasn't asking a question and that should go to a different place. So all of that is working. The stuff that I really want to work on right now is thinking about visuals. How do I put stuff on screen? And so we're going to work through that a little bit this morning. And then I have a bunch of other kind of gamification things that I want to do, not only for users that use a device with a screen, but also for users that are only playing by voice. And so I want to let them know, for example, hey, there's 50 history questions, and you have you've gotten 12 of the 50 right, or you've been asked 12 of them and you got 7 of those right. So in history, your correct percentage is 68%, or whatever it is. So I have the data, so I know which ones you got right, which ones you got wrong. So that's an easy way to kind of figure out how those pieces go together, and then it's just a matter of figuring out how do I summarize and filter that to you, because one of the challenges with voice, of course, is I don't want to overwhelm you with words. I don't want to be constantly talking to you and telling you all this stuff that's going on, because if I'm doing that, you're not playing the game, and a long conversation with Alexa where she's doing all the talking is not a terribly engaging experience. So I want it to be a quick back and forth. And I'm thinking I'll probably have to build out an entire segment of this that allows you as the player to ask about, like, what are my stats or whatever, and I haven't done any of that stuff yet. So what I thought I would do is start with a quick demo of the skill just to show you where it's at today. There's 2 pieces to it. There's ask a random question or ask a specific category question, but then there's also a daily game, and the daily game is a series of 10 questions that have never been in the game before, so you've never heard any of them. And they're worth additional points. I haven't talked about points yet at all, but you earn 10 points for every just random question that you answer, and you earn 100 points for every question you answer in a daily game. The catch being is there's 10 questions per day and in the daily game, and if you get one wrong, you're done. So even though there are 10 questions, you don't have the ability to get through all of them unless you answer all of them correctly. So those are each worth 100 points each, and then you can level up at 1,000, 2,000, every break of 1,000. And those 1,000 points allow you to skip questions in the daily game also. So if you, let's say you have 2,200 points, and you get to question 2 in the daily game, you get it wrong, it'll say, nope, you got that wrong, but you're level 2, so we're going to let you continue. Now, you won't get the points for that, but you will be allowed to continue on and move on to the next question. So there's a benefit to playing more, to playing and earning more points, because that allows you to get further in each daily game. So that is the scope of this thing so far. Thank you, Bob, for joining. Thank you, Carrie. This is an awesome thing, and I'm really working hard on it. Right now, my database has just under 500 questions, but I have access to just over 2,000 questions that I have written with me and a friend of mine. So we have the questions. It's just getting them into this format and getting them into my data structure is a bit of a challenge. So I have to write a voice, a screen, and a card version of each question. A lot of times it's just copy and paste. But I want to have an image for each one of these, so coming up with imagery that looks good. Having additional information to let the user know when they get it right. So if they ask a question about, I don't know, Ukraine in a geography question, and they get it right, I also want to let them know, hey, by the way, that is true. Ukraine does this, this, and this, and this is why this is true. Like, it's a little bit of additional information about whatever the answer to the question was. So there's a lot of curation and care that's going into all of these questions and answers, and so it just takes time. And so my goal is to start with 500 questions and kind of launch with that, and then my idea is that I will add 10 questions every day as part of that daily game, which will then become part of the general population of questions after that day. So hopefully that all makes sense, but I thought I'd give you a quick demo of the skill just so you can hear what it does and how it works, and then I'm going to get into building some more stuff, primarily some visuals today. I want to play with the Alexa presentation language. It's called APL, and I figured I would spend some time looking at that. So here's the quick demo. Alexa, open TKO Trivia.
Welcome to TKO Trivia. What would you like to do? You can start today's game or ask for a trivia question.
Give me a random question.
Here's your question from the TV and radio category. What's the better-known name of former reality show star Alana Thompson?
What is the better-known name of the former reality show Alana Thompson? I wrote these questions, and I don't know that I remember that one, but I think it's Honey Boo Boo. Alexa, Honey Boo Boo. Nice.
You nailed it. Awesome. You just scored yourself 10 points. What should we do next?
Play today's game.
Welcome to today's game on National Aviation Day. Here's your first question from the Art and Stage category. What American abstract impressionist painter is sometimes known as Jack the Dripper?
Alexa, Jackson Pollock.
You got that one right. Nice work. That just got you 100 more points. Here's your second question from the Business World category. In what industry did the Rockefeller family make its money?
All right, so I know the answer to this one is oil, but I have a bunch of synonyms for this. You can say oil, you can say gas, you can say gasoline, you can say oil and gas, or you can say gas and oil, or any kind of combination of those things. So I'm going to say gasoline because that's the latest synonym I added for this question, so let's see how that works. You'll also notice that I'm giving the user some time by playing some audio here. This is one of those little hacky things that you have to do with Alexa if you want the user to have more time, where I'm just playing some music, and then she will say, okay, your time's up, what's your answer? And then you get the
You
8
can
seconds.
always interrupt my waiting music if you know the answer faster. Just say my name. What's your answer?
Gasoline.
You nailed it. Awesome. 100 more points, just for you. Here's your third question from the design category. What automaker has a bull as part of its logo?
What automaker has a bull as part of its logo? I know this is Lamborghini, but I'm going to get this one wrong on purpose just so we can end the game. And we'll move into doing some actual development. Yeah, Ice Cream, I'm sure that I have set off your device more than once. And Carrie, my apologies for setting off yours. That's the nature of this business, I guess. Alexa, Ferrari.
Uh-oh. You got that one wrong. Lamborghini is the correct answer. Your level saved you on this one. It will keep you alive until question 3. Here's your fourth question
Gotcha, I'm already
from the
level
film
3.
category. In the history of the Academy Awards, 3 films have tied for the most Oscars with 11. Name one of the 3 films.
Okay, there are 3 films that have tied for the most Oscars with 11, and I have to name one of them. This is another one of those complicated questions that is surprisingly challenging when you think about how I want to capture the answers for this and know whether or not they got the right answer. So the answer to this one is Ben-Hur, it is Titanic, and it is Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, or what some people might call Lord of the Rings 3. So any of those kinds of answers work, and variations on those things, of course.
Time's up.
So,
What's your answer?
Ghostbusters.
Uh-oh. You got that one wrong. The correct answer is Ben-Hur, Titanic, and The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Well, that's the end of today's game for you, but check back tomorrow for a brand new event. What should we do this time?
Quit. All right. So that's the end of the skill. Paranoia System, thank you for joining. Yes, I develop Alexa skills. So I actually work on the team that makes Alexa, and I spend a lot of my time thinking about how to solve some of the harder problems that we find. This trivia game certainly is one of those examples where you need to be able to capture anything a user says and verify whether or not it's right or wrong against the trivia questions. So I don't know how much experience you have with developing Alexa skills. Let me know. I'd love to know more about your experience. I don't know you. Most of the other people in the chat room I have met, so I have some gauge on what their experience is, or at least knowledge with this platform. But Ice Cream, that's surprising. I have a whole library of devices here. I'm going to eventually move them right over this shoulder. Camera's reversed for me. But I think I'm going to move my whole lab right behind me here onto that shelf. And that way when I need to talk to stuff, I can just turn over and look at them. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm trying a whole new setup in here. I have a standing desk. I have a standing stool, I guess is the right way to describe it. So I'm sitting, but a lot of my weight is on my legs. Paranoia system, that's awesome. You've developed an Alexa skill using the SMAPI API. That's awesome. So I don't know that I'm doing any SMAPI stuff, but I am using the CLI primarily for most of my development, and that hits against against SMAPI entirely. So I guess in a way I am using SMAPI, but not in any direct way. So okay, so I'm going to get this keyboard out of my way, and now that streaming is working and everything is good, and we're going to jump over to some code, maybe, if that wants to stay open for me. So let's go to this view. Nope, that's not going to work. So let's go over to this view. In a panic, I switched over to other software this morning, which means that most of the buttons and things that I have set up for me here do not work. Okay, so I have my code here. This is a rather large code base at this point. But the thing that I'm really focused on is how do I take my questions and put them on the screen, and then how do I take my answers once the user has answered a question and put those on the screen, because I have data for both of them. So that's the thing that I'm really working on now, and I've already written a bunch of the code for this. So you can see down here in my answer intent that I have somewhere down here. Again, there is a lot of code. I have commented out a line right here that is calling a function that I created called add-APL. Paranoia, I use Lambda, so that's the primary place that I keep all of my Alexa stuff, and I generally have used self-hosted stuff, but I'm expecting to do a bunch of weirder things. I have a bunch of extra node modules and stuff like that, and I felt that it was just easier to do this, and I started before you could use the CLI with the hosted Alexa skills. So at some point I might even consider moving it over there, but for now, yeah, this is all just living on Lambda. Please keep coming with the questions. I'm happy to answer anything that you might have. But so I have an add APL function here, and the idea behind this is for me to go out and grab, well, first detect whether or not the user is using a device that can actually support APL, and then if they are, then to add that stuff to my response that's going back to the user. So let me go look at this really quick. We're going to go to the definition for add APL. Well, maybe. Thought that's what I'd call it. Yeah, there we go. So in here I have a weird switch case. I don't know if I'm going to keep this, but the idea is that all APL will be added this way, and then I will tell it what kind of APL I want to add, whether that's the splash screen. I had one called cheese, which is, well, I'll explain in just a second, and then answer and question. And I'm sure as I add more cases, it would be very easy for me to just come in here, do this thing, and then each of these functions, like the get answer APL, would be something like this, where I would go out and I would grab the answer JSON file that is my APL file, and then I would go and replace a bunch of values in there, because I would need to say, hey, the answer needs to be in this text, and the image needs to be here, and on and on. So I'd have these individual functions for creating an answer, creating a question, whatever, and it could just go grab that data from all of my session data that I have available to me. So I don't have to make a direct call and pass all the data across. I already have most of that available to me in my session variables. So the way that this generally works is that I have some JSON file, which might look like this one. And this is a rather complicated one, but the idea here is that I have a bunch of styles and layout instructions, and then down here at the very bottom I have some data sources, and this is where things like my background image and stuff all live. And this, you can see that I have Parmigiano Reggiano here. This is the cheese-based template that if I come over here and look at this is what the template actually looks like. And it's unfortunate that my video is covering a little bit of that, but that's okay. I can show you the individual pieces, but this is kind of the template that I'm going for. The difference here is that I will have my question kind of where this bold is. This blue text will go away. This probably is just the name of my skill. I still want to have these hints down here at the bottom so that I can recommend to a user other things they might want to say to the skill. Or I can say things like, check out the subscription, right? Because it's not very easy to get your products in front of your customers, and so that's a nice way to be able to do that. And then for my questions, I have a very nice category icon for each category. And then for answers, I have a real image that reflects the answer to the question when I'm showing users the answer. So I have the layout that I want, and I have all the pieces that I need. What I really need to do is get this working. And so this APL right here that I have, if you can get this yourself by coming into the APL designer, and then there's this image right detail sample that you can see. And if I click on this, that is how I end up with this thing, right? And so if I come look at the APL for this, this is the JSON that I've borrowed. And so over here, that is exactly what we're looking at here. But I don't want to edit this file directly because it dynamically changes based on the question that I'm asking and the answer that I'm giving and everything like that. So the first thing that I noticed was that they actually divide this file up into two pieces. There's document, and then down here further, there's data sources. And so I have a file that I'm going to call answer, and I'm going to take this cheese-based thing. Let's take that and copy it. And I'm going to take this and paste it in here. So all of the cheese-based data is still there. So this is going to obligate me now to change everything that's in here so that it's not broken. And then as a way to learn, I can start taking chunks out. So as I look at this layout and I find that blue text, for example, that I want to get rid of, I can come in here, find it, and hopefully remove it. Or at least make it empty so that there isn't any data inside of it. So I have my answer.json. And in here, I have, for answer, I want to get the answer APL. And in here, I want answer.json. So the thing that I need to know is that the document itself, the thing that I'm pulling back, the thing I'm calling APL right here, has two pieces to it. One is the document, and one is the data sources. So just having done that, just saving that file as is, my hope is that when I, actually I'm going to do this for question also, just so that I can get to where I see a question. So I'll call this get question APL, because these eventually will probably look different. I don't want just one layout for my entire skill. But we'll call get answer APL, and then we'll have another function that's identical right now for get question APL. And these will eventually diverge. Question. Okay, and we'll just, yeah, why not? We'll create a new file called question.json. And then we'll take our answer JSON that we had for the cheese, and we'll take that and put it in here as well, so that I have that entire layout again. So in this case now, whether I'm asking a question or an answer, I will call the appropriate function, get the appropriate APL back, and take its document and its data sources and apply it to my new directive, which is an APL render document. All of that is well and good. Now I need to actually call these functions. So I need to go to where I ask a question. So we'll call my question intent. Let's go to the beginning. And question intent handler. This is when the user asks for just a random question. So they say, give me a sports question, or give me a random question, or whatever. And so down here, I have, if they don't own that category, this is where I do that upsell stuff. But the stuff that I'm really interested in is that I go to ask trivia question. This is the function that does all the work for me. And in fact, it even sends the response back. So the first thing that I have to do, because this is a conditional thing, is that I have to break up this really nice chained set of functions. And so the first thing that I'll need to do is say var, I call it RB just because that's the response builder. Again, you could call this whatever you want, but that seems to work for me. It's nice and short and reminds me of what it is, response builder. So this is going to be handler input response builder, maybe. Okay, so I have that. And then the next thing that I can do is say rb.speak, and I can take whatever my speak function was and drop that here. But I'm doing these each as individual lines rather than as a nice chained event, and that's because I'm going to need to conditionally add one in here. And if I do this all as one, then I can't do that. So we'll do that again with rb.reprompt. That's the reprompt text that I use when a user doesn't give me an answer. So I say, hey, what's the answer to your question, or whatever, and they don't answer me, and I say, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. What is your answer? Just as another way to remind them, like, hey, I'm still waiting for your answer. So then we have my standard card. So this is what shows up in the Alexa app and a few other places. So we'll add my standard card still. And then we have oh, this entity directive, this is me adding dynamic entities to the skill. So one of the things we haven't really talked about is how I go about capturing answers and knowing that you got the right answer. I've talked about that in earlier streams, but the general idea here is the way I used to do this is you would have one big slot. A slot, if you're not familiar with Alexa development too deeply, is like a variable. So if a user says, I want the sports category, the word sports would sit in a slot. And that way you could build a bunch of sample utterances. I can show you what those look like. Maybe here somewhere. Give me, this is the question intent. So I might say sports question, but you can see how category and all the places that it's highlighted, that is considered a slot. And so I don't have to write a separate sample utterance for Alexa to understand for every single category. I'm going to mute Alexa also. I don't have to write a separate statement for each time that a user might say a different thing. I can just create these slots and then have a series of values that are the expected values I might have for the word category. And so the same way worked for answer. I had to basically build an answer slot that had 500, 700, 1,000 different answers that were all the possible answers to all of the questions. So aside from this being a maintenance nightmare, it's also very tricky because I'm training a slot with a bunch of really disparate values. And so because Alexa looks at all those values and says, wow, these don't have anything in common, she starts to accept any value as the response to answer, which can treat your voice model in a very strange way. And a lot of things land there that maybe shouldn't. So because of that, I'm using something called dynamic entities, which instead of using any of this at all, I now have an answer slot that looks like, where is the answer one? Yeah, right here. This is my answer slot, and I've just put a few names of presidents in there just to have something in there. But if we look at how I actually talk to answer, you'll see that I have these I think it is, or one of the ones I wanted to add to the, was what is, or who is. Like the way people answer trivia, answer Jeopardy questions. Who is answer? Because I don't want them to be wrong just because they decided to use a Jeopardy format answer. So these are all the ways that people can respond. I even have things like and but all of these fall into either answer or wrong. And so the way answer works, and the thing that I'm doing in my code right here, is that I have an entity directive where I actually tell it to replace all the, that's what this replace is here, replace all the values in the answer slot, which is this, with just the ones I'm giving you right now. Which is really cool because that means that I'm dynamically shaping the voice model for my skill on the fly for every single question. And I know that if they say the right answer, it'll hit my slot. And if they don't say the right answer, then it's going to hit my wrong answer slot. And that is something that is designed to catch pretty much anything that a user might say. And so I know very, very quickly whether or not they get the answer right because I've only provided one specific value with some synonyms for their specific slot value. Which is super awesome because it has gotten me to a point now where I feel very good about the reliability of my answers, and I know that they are giving me the right answer if they hit that because that's the only possible answer they could have given. Anything that wasn't a match for the actual answer lands someplace else and lets me know that they got it wrong. So that's what the entity directive is, if you haven't seen one of those before. And then finally we need to do return get response. This is the last deal. This is the last line that goes in here, so we have to return it. And we have to do the RB at the beginning. So that goes like that, and then all of this can go away. We won't need that anymore. And the last piece that we need then for asking a question is RB dot add APL. Not app, add APL. And so in here, I need to pass RB itself. I need to pass the handler input because I'm going to need some data from the session variables and other things. And then the one that I want, this is the question one. So I'm just going to pass in Babops. That's a really good question that you saw the this, that, they. Let me go back and show you what that looks like. This is right here. And this, that, they does what you might think it does. I'm basically using a slot like shorthand. So instead of having to say, these all have, or they all have, or whatever. Because there are some questions that I have that are like, what do these three things have in common? And you might say, they all have bread, or they all have pears. A good example of this is, what do these things have in common? Fruit, socks, and ears. And the answer is they all have pears. And because that is a generally true statement, right? There are pears in fruit, there are pairs of socks, and you have a pair of ears, which maybe that isn't as inclusive a question as it could be. I'm sure there are a number of people that maybe don't have a pair of ears, but all sensitivities aside, you can see how that is a question that would require they all have pairs or something like that. So what I've done with this, that, they is just create a slot that contains all of those kinds of values, so I can show you what that looks like. And it looks like this. Things, this, that, they, and these. So that I don't have to create another line for every single one of those. It treats all of these words basically as the same. And so when I hit that this, that, they slot, which is up here, any of those words could plug into this hole and allow any of those answers to be. It works very well for writing shorthand sample utterances for your Alexa skill. That's kind of what I found in doing this, and it works surprisingly well and allows you to write a whole lot less content here in your sample utterances. So, Babops, I hope that answers your question. Thank you for the question, though, and if you have more, please ask. Okay, so that is that, and so now we're at a point where I add APL and I want the question one. So I just want to make sure that I'm following this path appropriately. I'm going to add APL, and I've already done something wrong because there's no definition for that. So what did I call my function? Let's go up here, or actually, let's just go find APL. I don't think there's a lot of examples of that. Add APL. Yeah, that's the function name. What did I do wrong? Let's go up here to where I was working. This is my answer intent. This is my show display template. This is my launch. I want the question one, which I think is right after the answer one. Question intent handler. Oh, I need to go to Ask Trivia question. It was down here. And down here, RB dot. Oh, because it's not that. It's RB equals add APL, because I'm going to return back that response builder object. That was just a syntax problem. So now it should be able to find my definition. I come in here and I say the type is question. Yeah, this is not a small file, and I'm doing everything in one file. I will eventually, I think, move my utilities and stuff out into separate files, but it's worked so far. There's with Alexa stuff, you have the unfortunate curse of having to at least have all of your handlers live in one file. And then I try to externalize as much of the functionality as I possibly can, but like for all this design stuff, I will probably move this into separate files so that at least it's a little more manageable. But I agree with you, Carrie. This is starting to get a little unwieldy. All right, so I come in here, I say question. I want the question APL. I have a function called question APL that's going to get my question.json. And we're not going to change anything else because I don't know what any of the properties are in there yet, so we won't do that. All I want to do is load that cheese template. That's all I'm looking to do. So I think we are at a point where the APL would get returned here. The APL gets dropped in here as document and data sources, and then that RB gets passed back to give me question, which is, where did that go? Here, right here. That should pop that back in here. So I feel really good about this. I'm going to raise my terminal up a little bit just so you can see it. Clear it. So ask deploy lambda, and we'll push this thing out to my lambda function out in the wonderful cloud. And as soon as that's done, then I'm going to test this, and hopefully it won't break. Now there is a 99.9% chance that it will break because that's what software development is. But I feel confident about this one, at least this step. Okay, that is done. So I can't show you this. This is one of the things that I'm going to be working on with my stream, is that I want to be able to flip over to a live view of the Echo, which will either be over my shoulder or like I have an Echo Show 5 sitting right here in front of me. So I'm just going to celebrate, and that's how you'll know that it worked. Alexa, Alexa, open TKO Trivia.
This is TKO Trivia, a trivia game with 20 different categories that will knock you out.
Alexa,
You can say,
give me a random question.
here's your question, from the United States category.
Ooh, it worked. So let's see if I can...
On what island does
There's
the
my
Statue
cheese
of
template.
Liberty sit?
And the question was, on what island does Liberty Island, or does the Statue of Liberty sit? What is the name of the island that the Statue of Liberty's on? And a lot of people think of it as Ellis Island, because that's where a lot of immigrants in the 20s and 30s, that's where they landed. But that's actually near it, but it's not the island that the Statue of Liberty sits on. It's actually Liberty Island, I believe. Alexa, Liberty Island.
Oops. It looks like one of our programmers broke something. I will let them know and have them fix it as soon as possible.
All right, that's
In
also
the
interesting.
meantime, you can always ask for a
Alexa,
random question. Or
Stop. So I got the right answer.
I'm outie.
I got the right answer, and something went wrong. I don't know what went wrong, so I'm gonna jump over to my my CloudWatch logs and see what could have broken. But I want to answer Floyd 14's question first, which is, have you checked out the new ASKX CLI? And I'm not familiar with what that is, and I feel like I need to go see if that's a thing or if that's a typo. ASKX apparently is also a stock ticker thing. So let's say Alexa. Oh, I definitely broke it, Carrie. There's no doubt that I am the one that broke the code. I just don't know what I did wrong. So we have CloudWatch here. What I'm actually going to do is flip over to just the camera view. This is something that I've started to get in the habit of. I really want to show you my CloudWatch logs, but there are API keys and all sorts of other stuff that get logged in there, and putting that on stream is not in my best interest. And so as much as I want to show this stuff to you, Floyd, I will check it out. Now, I haven't seen the new ASKX CLI, but I know they do a lot of really interesting stuff on the Alexa Labs, so it's worth me checking out. So I'm going to dig in here, see what my error was at least. It looks like I was just, it looks like I cannot get property items of undefined. So on line 1276. So if I jump back to my code, which is here, we go to 1276, I think we're going to find that I'm just calling 1276. It is this line right here, and it's because this thing doesn't exist in that APL. That's all. That was what my error was. So I can totally live with that because that's a reference to a thing that doesn't really exist yet. So we are in a good position where we are loading the APL and we're not getting an error on the question. So now I want to put a few pieces in there. So the first thing that I need to do is figure out what the property is. So we'll go to question. And what the property is for the image itself. So that main image, it looks like they have two versions of it referenced here, so I'll have to update both of those. And then I have a background image. So let's start with the background image, and that's going to be, how did I reference that in this other one? I just did main template.items0.text. So over here, I'm referencing the whole file. So I need data sources.bodytemplate2 data. So let's start there. APL.data sources.bodytemplate2 data. I don't know if I got that right. Data sources bodytemplate2 data dot background image. Dot sources, and then there's two objects in there, 0 and 1. So sources 0.url and sources 1.url. So let's change that to same thing for sources 1. And then the other thing that I need to figure out, and this is again me going back to camera only, because I'll dig into my logs to find this. I need to see what I was sending them, what I have in my session variables that I can use. So I have an entire object called current question. It has all the data I want. So it looks like I just need session attributes.current question.image. Well, this is a little more, okay. So we're going to do session attributes.current question dot image 0, because each one only have one. Is it capital I? Capital I image 0 dot, I guess I can show you this. This part is safe. Maybe. Okay, so this is my log here for this. And you can see in here that I'm digging into current question dot image dot URL. That's the thing that I really want. Yeah, that's the thing that I want. So come back here, and it's URL semicolon. And then because I only have the one image, they provide 2 sizes. I just want to make sure that I'm providing the same image for both sizes. I don't have a different size for both. That should replace my image, but for question, that's not what I want. Yeah, for question, that's not actually what I want. I don't want to, because the image is actually an image of the answer, and that's no good. So let's start with the question, which will be screen question. So it's current question.screen question. So let me jump back and we'll figure out what that is first. So I'm going to copy these or comment these out. They're mostly there, but they're pointing to the wrong thing. But for question, I want, let's jump over to our display view here. This one is which one? This. Perfect. Okay. So down here in my what's going on? Give me the whole thing. In my data, this is the thing that I need. I have Parmigiano Reggiano. That's the title. I don't think I want that to be the question, though. I don't think I want the question to be sitting up at this top chunk here, which is what that is. I really think I want that to be, I don't know, maybe the category name? The category of the question we're in? That seems reasonable. All right, so if I'm going to do the category name, then I need, ooh, just lost that. That's no good. Okay, so if I'm just doing the title here, this is going to be body template to data dot title. That's pretty easy. So in here we'll do APL dot body template to data. Whoa, data sources. Dot body template to data dot title. And the name of my category. Do I have that in my data? Maybe. Maybe I do. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on here that I need to get off the screen. I don't want any of that. I want the browser. Okay, so I have my title. I need to go back to CloudWatch and see what my category is. I have that. I have a bunch of data I need to get rid of. So all I have is the category ID. That's fine. I just need to use that. So it's current question dot category 0. So we'll do session attributes dot current question dot category. Was it single? Capital. Category 0. That is the value of my category, but what I actually have is a bunch of functions to get this stuff out of an object I have at the top of my page. So it's get category. Get spoken value. It's all these little helper functions. That's the one I want. Get specific category, and that's going to return me the whole object. Perfect. So I'll just come back in here to my add APL stuff. And so we're going to do this. Get specific category, where I'm passing it the category ID. Dot. Get specific. I'm passing that in. That's great. So, okay, so I'm doing that part right. So now I just need the name of the category, and I'm going to want this really nice looking name. I have this object that gives me a bunch of data about my categories, but I want the name itself. So let's go down. Dot name. Okay, so that should grab the category value that I have in my session. I should call my get specific category function, and then I want the dot name value of that return, and that's going to be my title. Sure, that looks like it works. So what is the next value that I can do? I could do, if I look at my, let's go back to the APL view, which is here. And I have this thing. So that was my title and my images. I'll worry about the, do I have the image paths up here? What do I have in my category at the very top here? I don't, so I must have a, I must have somewhere a path to, that is it. I really shouldn't do this way. What's the rule? If I did it once, that's fine. If I do it a second time, should be mindful of it. The third time is when I really need to extract it and turn it into its own function, but I kind of feel like I'm already there. So I'm going to take this, and we're going to call this get small category image. We're going to do, what was it, category.reference name? Category.reference name. Yeah, another helper function somewhere. Get small category image, and this is going to be reference name. And in here, we're just going to return that like that. And that gives me my small category image, and then I'll do the same thing for the big one. And the only difference between the two is this. Okay. So now I want to take this function call Floyd, I considered using a parameter for image size. The problem is then I have to remember what the size is, and if the size changes, then I've got to change a bunch of references throughout the code. I like to do things like small, medium, large, because then I can just change that in one place later if I need to change it. If I scatter 512s and 108s all throughout my code, then it can become kind of a nightmare to make sure that I find them all and get them all proper. So this is definitely my preferred approach, but I do see how that would make things a little bit easier. But it's just it's not generally the way that I would approach this problem. Anyway, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That seems to be the direction that I go with this. But I definitely I had that thought as what I was doing. Oh, you think just past small and large? Yeah, that's probably one way or the other. I think either way is probably fine. I don't know whether you change the function name or just add another parameter. I don't know that saves me anything. But I have that fixed, but that wasn't actually where I wanted to do it. I need to do it in the ask trivia question function, which is down here somewhere. Carrie has made me hyper focused on the fact that this file is too big, and now I'm struggling to find anything that I want, because of course I am. So we go to our add APL, and then down here we have this thing. So I want to change out my category image, which was this thing here, and now we do have a small and large, which is even better. So now I can just do get small category image. But now I need to do something else, because now I need the category for more than one thing. So if our category now equals this, no, it equals this. So we'll drop that here, and then I can just do category.name here, and then for this I can do category.reference name. And the reason that I have these different properties is for all the different ways that I might use this information. So one is very string friendly, URL friendly kind of stuff. So we'll do large here. So I have my my references to those two images. So I feel like I'm at a point where I would really like to test this and make sure that I'm not going off the rails. So we'll just try deploying my Lambda again, and then we'll see what happens here. Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to hook up another camera that just looks at my display of my Echo device. I think I can do that pretty easily here. And there'll just be a camera view that I can flip over to when I need it. Okay, that is done, so we'll just take a quick look at this and then I'll hold it up for the camera. Alexa, open up TKO Trivia. Alexa, give me a random question.
Here's your question from the miscellaneous category.
Ooh.
What is the only letter in the alphabet that isn't the first letter of a chemical element on the periodic table?
You can see that
or
I
the
screwed up
first
the
letter of
background
an
image
independent country?
with my category. I actually put it in the wrong place. So I have changed out the background image, not the cheese image, which is good. Like, we're making progress, right? But I guess it makes sense that it would be the background image since that's what I'm actually talking to. So I have an image, I have a URL for that. I'm just going to try standing. I'm still figuring out how to sit on a standing stool. Alexa, stop.
I got a debt.
Okay, so because that was the background image, we actually wanted our background image, which I don't really have any function for or anything. It's just, let's reload this and go into my art folder on S3, and I have a background image that's this. So we'll take this URL and we will just drop it right here. And I'm copy them and paste. So the background image is going to be this as a string and this as a string. Okay, now let's talk about what that main image is, because clearly I missed that. So down here, if I go deeper into the data, I have, this is my background image, and I changed out those. Then I have one called image, and that's going to be image sources URL. And again, I have a small and a large. So I think this is an easy swap out. It's just instead of background image, it's this. But on the right line. All right, let me make sure I've got that right. Image sources URL. Image sources URL. All right, I'm okay with that. I think that looks good. So let's give that one more run and just see what it looks like on my display now. Almost there. Oh, it's already 11 o'clock. My goodness. I can't run the full 2 hours this morning as much as I'd like. I think I'm probably going to stop here in about 10 or 15 minutes. But now that I know it was the software that was my problem, I think I have some work to do to get all these things rigged back up and hooked up to my Stream Deck and everything. And at one of these points, I'm going to do like a behind the scenes where we can talk about what this whole rig looks like. I've got a big bright light in my face right here, and a tripod with a camera right there. I'm going to get another camera, I think, to point to my device down here, and all that will work with my Stream Deck. So let's give this a run. Alexa, open TKO Trivia. Alexa, give me a random question.
Here's your question from the TV and radio category.
Nice. So it's too
Since
big,
2011,
and I can fix that.
Venezuelan
But you can see that I
television
have
channel
my
11
background
has
image,
aired a show called
which
El
is that like
Precio
sunburst,
Justo, which is a
and
Spanish
then I have
language
my
version of What American
images
Show.
of my template there. So what I'm going to do is remove the background from my category images, because I can lay those on top now, and those will look pretty nice. So awesome. I think I've gotten as far as I will probably go today, but my goal is to continue working through this pre-built APL template and put all the information that I want here on the screen, so that when a user asks a question, oh, I didn't even notice that. Did you guys see? TV and radio is shown up there in the corner too.
Time's up. What's your answer?
Repeat.
Here's your question from the TV and radio category.
Got to get this question right before I go.
Since 2011, Venezuelan television channel 11 has aired a show called El Precio Justo, which is a Spanish language version of What American Show.
Alexa, I don't know.
Oh well, you can't possibly know everything. Nice try. The Price is Right is the correct answer.
The Price is
What should we
Right.
do this time?
Quit. All right, this is pretty exciting stuff. I'm now in a position where I can use APL pretty easily, and I'll have to change up some of my images to make the images transparent, and I've got to fill in the other things like the title and the question and that stuff, but I've made some good progress. I've at least got stuff displaying on the screen. And then I can worry about the other devices and how that looks on each of those, but that's all next steps. So I think I'll probably put a bow on this for now. We'll check in some code somewhere. How do I want to do that? I don't really want to be on this screen. I guess I will change it out later. So Ice Cream, I'm glad you like APL. This is kind of my first venture into it, so I have a lot to learn about how this stuff works. I spent too many years of my life playing the HTML, CSS, JavaScript game, and so I know that very well. But this is different. It's a departure from that. So I'm still picking it up and learning, which is why I'm doing that here. I figure why not learn along with me or see the mistakes I'm making, or maybe you guys can help me avoid some mistakes. So with all that, I'm gonna call it an hour this morning, and thank you all for coming. Thank you for the questions. This has been the best conversation we've had yet. So please keep it up, and I will see you all on Monday. I know it's Labor Day, but I have a good feeling I'm gonna probably come in here and get some things done related to this in the morning. So hopefully I will see you all then. Thank you all for tuning in. This is always fun to ask questions and learn together. So thanks again. Bye.